2 years ago, the renewed Hope administration took over. 2 years ago, the president emphasized his priority for the nation's security situation. In his words, security shall be the top priority of our administration because neither prosperity nor justice can prevail amidst insecurity and violence. 2 years ago, the renewed Hope administration made fresh commitments to address the power problem, assuring improved generational transmission and distribution, including improved investment to the sector to make electricity more accessible and affordable for Nigerians. 2 years down the road, with more expectations, when the administration began, what are the gains to count? What are the challenges? What is the requirement for the administration to get the job done? This is the PAP Show, where we ask tough questions and hold leaders to account. At the Political Advantage platform, every word, statement, and segment serves one purpose and one purpose only: to tell your story, not as a matter of speculation, but as our reality as Nigerians. Welcome, I am Hadiza Malumfashi. I have with me today someone that is known for bold and unfiltered disposition on matters of governance in Nigeria, with deeply resonating views about our many national problems, including insecurity, corruption, and leadership failure. She is a former director of President Tinubu's Presidential Campaign Council, a former member of the Police Service Commission, amongst other numerous positions held over. She is the former director of President Tinubu's Presidential Campaign Council, a former member of the Police Service Commission, amongst other numerous positions held. She is currently the founder and chairperson of the Northern Star, a non-governmental organization which targets sensitization and empowerment of the Northern youth. Meet my guest as we look into performance of the current administration 2 years down the line, right after this break. Welcome back. Hajia Naja'atu Mohammed is here with us. Thank you for joining us on the PAP Show.
You're welcome.
You were once known to have supported the current president. What has changed since then?
Nothing has changed.
Okay.
Nothing has changed in the sense that I really never gave him my support.
You never gave him your support?
No, I did not. I did not because I supported Osibanjo.
Okay.
Yeah, for the primary elections. My support was for Osibanjo. However, when Tinubu got the presidential ticket, I was made one of the directors. And strangely enough, I was heading so-called group of non-governmental organizations.
Okay.
In the first place, non-governmental organizations should be apolitical. So why do you even create a section in your campaign
for a non-governmental
organization? You see, the problem started there. However, I accepted because they pleaded with me to accept. And I didn't want to be arrogant. I've said this severally. So I accepted the position, not because I wanted to, but because they pleaded with me to accept it. Having accepted it, and then we got to a point that I had to ask President Tinubu what he had for the North. That is my primary constituency.
Certainly.
Because if I need to campaign for him in the North, where Alhamdulillah I'm a household name, then I need to know what he has for the North. And he told me point blank he didn't have anything for the North.
Nothing?
No, nothing. He told me that when I visited him in London, when he invited me to London. And then I asked him even then what he had for the country. he said to me he didn't have any plans for the country, that his only plan would be based on the manifesto of the APC, which is neither here nor there. So I asked him why he did not have a blueprint for the country. And what he told me was that he would be stepping on too many toes if he brings out his manifesto, if he brings out his blueprint. And let me quote him. He said, I could be killed. He said, if people know...
The president said,
yes,
I could be killed.
That was before he was president.
When he wanted to campaign, he said, I could be killed.
So I felt very bad. And he asked me if I had a blueprint for the North. And I told him that yes, it had, because we had a network for national salvation, which included a blueprint for the needs of the North in particular. And so he asked me to bring it over to him. I did, but it was never even accepted.
The blueprint.
The blueprint was thrown out. I was told by one of his officers, Masari, who said that...
Masari, the former governor?
No, not the former governor, the one that stood in for vice president before they could get Shatima.
I see.
So he told me that all the North needed was state police. They didn't need energy, they didn't need infrastructure, they didn't need the dredging of the Niger. He said they don't need any of these things. They didn't need anything to do with out-of-school children, that includes the Almajiri menace. They didn't need anything about insecurity or how to secure the country. Because if you don't secure the North, you are not securing the country. If you just say that you want to secure one part of the country against another part, you are not serious, because we are intertwined. We are intertwined. You cannot remove the North from Nigeria, for instance. You know.
It's quite impossible.
Yeah, unless, of course, you have done that, then I think the North matters more. So the bulk of voters come from the North. Even in his so-called votes, he got 60% of his votes from the North. Even though he's neglecting the North now that we are seen as enemies, you know. And I want people to understand that, as far as I'm concerned, I don't take people up on their person. I have nothing personal against Tinubu. Nothing. All I'm interested in is the North and my country in general.
Talking about the North, what do you think is his reason for not pushing for this majority? Why? What's the reason?
Well, if you look at his policies and you look at his budget, everything, and his appointments, everything revolves around the Southwest. You know, one thing I love about Tinubu, to be very honest, is that he didn't lie to Nigerians.
He was straightforward from the beginning.
He was from the get-go. He told them, Emilio, come, it's my turn. It's not about the country, it's his turn. He did not lie. And then, if you look at his previous utterances, he has once, I think, I can't quite remember the newspaper, but I have it, in which he said he never believed in Nigeria as a country.
The president never believed in Nigeria as a country.
And he had never denied it. He had never denied it, you know. So what I'm trying to say, and you look at his appointments, everything is about Yorubas for Yorubas and by Yorubas. The rest of the country is totally neglected. It's not only the North that is neglected, but take the Southeast, for instance. If you take the Southeast, now that they are talking about it's a northern, southern thing, it's a lie. What is the Southeast getting? Nothing. Is the Southeast secure?
In your opinion, do you think this means he has an agenda towards the North?
Well, he has an agenda towards the country as a whole, because the whole country is neglected except for his region. I think that is parochial. I think that is he's going against the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which he swore to defend. Because he is now a regionalist. He is now just a Yoruba, say, king. Because everything is for the Yorubas. You don't do that in a country that you are supposed to be ruling on. So, but he is using the resources of the country to build his region for reasons best known to him. So if it's somebody, since he has proclaimed that he does not believe in a country, like in Nigeria, then this should not be seen as a surprise. We shouldn't be surprised about the things he's doing to the country. Because what Nigeria needs is somebody that can bring the country together.
To unite.
To see the country as his constituency.
The whole country, not just a region.
Not just the region. For so long as you only see your region as your constituency and that which you have allegiance to, then you cease to be the president of the country by implication. You have reduced yourself to a regional head. And that is not what it is supposed to be. But you see, you have to also look at the psyche of a person that you choose to rule over you. So Nigerians, I think, lost an opportunity to have a visionary
leader and president.
Yeah, because the essence of governance has been lost. And the primary responsibility of any government, in fact, the reason why we have governments and governments is primarily to take care of the welfare of the people of that country, to protect them, to protect them against lives and property internally, and protect them against external aggression. That is number one. And number two, that can be reflected in the economy. How do you now assess a country? You assess every country by looking at the economy. How the economy of that country has enhanced the welfare of the people of that country. The whole resources of any country is meant for the people of that country. Ideally, this is what it is supposed to do. So any kind of democracy, any kind of governance that does not take care of the economy, that does not take care of the security and welfare of the people of that country, does not have the legitimacy to exist. Because that is the primary responsibility of governance. So you have a situation where you have a president that does not look at the country as his constituency. He has reduced himself to a regional head. So that is really unfortunate.
It's unfair, you might say.
Unfortunate, really. It's not just unfair, it's unfortunate. Because he is balkanizing the country. And by so doing, he thinks that he can enhance probably the economy of the Southwest, which is not really working, because a lot of industries, a lot of companies are grinding to a halt because of the cost of production, because of the devaluation of the naira, because of the purchasing power of people that should buy your product is non-existent. So energy cost has skyrocketed. He has removed subsidy. The subsidy he removed is not just on the north.
I appreciate that insight. We will get back to the subsidy removal in itself. I just have to ask, you had said earlier that you appreciated that he was forthcoming and was clear about his intentions from the get-go. So you were known to have supported the current president until things changed. Can you share what exactly made you shift and what you think could have been done differently if you were still with him now?
You see, I told you earlier, I never supported him. I supported Osibanjo because Osibanjo is not just educated, but any time that Buhari leaves and power is handed over to Osibanjo. You see a lot of difference. You see a difference in security. You see a difference in the value of the naira, which is to say that these things are doable.
Is it fair to call the president currently a regional president?
He is a regional president because he doesn't give a hoot about other regions. You can see that from his appointments. You can see how he has moved everything to Lagos. Even the seat of power has been moved virtually to Lagos. I mean, Dodan Barracks, which is actually owned by the state government. They went to court to own the Dodan Barracks. But then you see billions of the federal government revenue being pumped into Lagos to renovate. Why do you need to renovate the Dodan Barracks?
That's a very good question.
Why are you renovating it? Who wants to stay there? Who do you have to stay there? Is it your guest house? And why should your guest house be in Lagos as a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Well, the Federal Capital Territory is Abuja.
Why are you moving the central bank to Lagos? Why did you move fund to Lagos? Everything is being moved to Lagos. Why? Why? Do you have a situation? Are you thinking of balkanizing the country? And you can also remember, and this is serious, you remember when Sunday Ogboho, I can't really pronounce his name, the OPC guy or the Odua person that has been agitating for an Odua republic.
I think.
When Tinubu was in London early this year, he was also in London
at the same time
at Downing Street to put in a proposal
to the president.
Not to the president, but to the prime minister, because he was in Downing Street agitating and seeking recognition for an Odua state, Odua Republic. Odua Republic is the Yoruba, the southwest geopolitical zone. So is it by accident? And you see, the significance of that is, one, they still have a colonial mentality, going to seek, so there's still that slave mentality in them. That, okay, Britain, your colonial masters, people that enslaved you for hundreds of years and then colonized you and still are neo-colonizing you, you still go back to them to seek redress, to seek to break away. How do they help you to break away? You see, that is one. And another thing is that, why was the timing such that Tinubu was in London then?
At the same time.
At the same time. But not just that. Seeking to do that, agitating to do that, is treasonable. So what happened to him? Nothing. He was cheered by, why are you keeping Nnamdi Kanu?
Why?
Yes,
that's
why?
A very good question.
Yeah, why are you keeping Nnamdi Kanu?
Yes.
When you let, what is his name, Sunday Ogboho, to be roaming around free and still agitating? You understand?
That is a
we
question
know the
that
carnage.
deeply.
We know the carnage that was done by OPC when Tinubu was governor of Lagos State.
All those years back.
Yeah.
True.
So these are things that Nigeria. That is why I say Tinubu did not lie to anybody. You know his antecedents, but you still made him your president.
I appreciate that insight truly. We will step back to this conversation right after this break.
Thank you.
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, we are doing a bit of a review, to say the least, of the 2 years of the Renewed Hope agenda. And with me here is, once again, Hajia Naja'atu Mohammed. Ma'am, I want to just simply ask, it's a tough question to ask, but are there reasons you think the president is not succeeding? And what are those that you think could be shared with Nigerians?
Well, he cannot succeed if he does not have the intention to succeed. Every action is governed by intention. And every intention is also governed with a blueprint.
Which he doesn't have?
Which he doesn't have. Of course he has. He has the blueprint that will develop the Southwest. And not just the Southwest, but even some states in the Southwest are not gaining anything from him.
So he's particular about states.
It's about Lagos. It's mainly about Lagos. And even if you look at his appointments, almost all the people he's appointing are people that had served him in one capacity or another in Lagos. And you have to also remember that since 1999, when Tinubu became the first governor of Lagos State in this republic, he still remains the governor. He is still the governor. Tinubu is the only person that I know that keeps power after he left power officially. You cannot say that about any military president or head of state or any military governor or any governor in this country.
What do you mean
What
by
I mean is this.
Power.
He has retained power in Lagos because he determines who gets what in Lagos till date. Since 99, even Obasanjo could not dislodge him.
How do you think that one was possible?
Well, you have to...
Seems like a long time.
Yeah. You know, I wouldn't want to mention names, but one Oba called me at one point and said, Naja'atu, you have to be very careful what you say about Tinubu. I said, why? Because you are all afraid of him. I am not afraid of anyone because you either kill me or let me live. Kill me or not, I will still die. So it doesn't really matter how I go. You know, even if you don't...
It will happen eventually.
I could even be killed by a mosquito, which is a disgrace. You understand? I feel that...
Certainly.
No, I wouldn't want to be killed by it. You understand? But it's good to die on your feet and believing on what you believe. That is justice for your people. I think the best thing that anyone can do is to seek justice for our people. So what I'm saying is this. He has been able to strangle Lagos for one reason or the other. No governor can be governor in Lagos without him. I just saw recently Ambode's write-up on why he was removed. And he was removed because he did not toe the line. You have to give to Tinubu anything that he seeks. All the contracts are his. The land belongs to him. Everything belongs to him. So that is just Lagos. So if Nigerians are so stupid enough to have picked this man with this kind of attitude,
mentality,
what else do you expect? That is why his so-called renewed hope.
So-called?
Yeah, it's so-called because it's a hoax. It's a lie. So what were his promises? Let us look at his promises. He promised energy. He promised to give us security. He promised to enhance the purchasing power of Nigerians. That was his promise. That was the so-called renewed hope. But remember, on his swearing-in day, without consulting anyone, he unilaterally removed fuel subsidy.
It was quite a shock.
Who was he talking to? He was not talking to Nigerians. He was talking to the IMF and the World Bank. He is telling them I'm a perfect stooge. That is not about my country. It's about power. It's about me retaining power as your puppet. Because the removal of subsidy does not serve Nigerians. It's only serving the interests of neoliberal IMF and World Bank. So this is the so that removal of subsidy, and immediately, with no cushion. So which hope did you give to Nigerians? It brought about inflation, the devaluation of Naira, hunger, cost of everything. and it affected the security and lives and property. So that is one. He talked about energy. How can you produce without energy? Energy now is so exorbitant that you cannot produce anything. The cost of production is so high that people are winding up their industries, their factories. And then you get back, and there is no infrastructural development.
And 1/3 of the promised renewed hope for electricity has not even been met up with.
But there isn't even the electricity. It's not even, they have, everything has been completely privatized. The banks have been, and the banks are owned by politicians. So when the economy is in tatters, how do you survive as a nation? When there is no security to life and property, completely. And then when there is the plunder of your natural resources, mostly by foreigners and their puppets in Nigeria, made up of former governors, former military officers, and what have you. How do you survive as a nation? How do you get security? Because even the security structure has to be restructured. It has to be restructured because it is a colonial security outfit created. The military and the police were created by Britain,
By the British.
not to protect Nigeria, but to protect the rulers then, that will enforce heavy taxation, extraction of our resources, forcefully. The military and the police were created to do just that. And this is exactly what they are doing. That is why every IG you get, he could be a very good person. He could be, upright. But once he gets there, his only responsibility is to protect the president and to make sure that the president win his election. Because elections today are not really conducted by the populace. When they say people received spaghetti, I say it's untrue. It's not their fault. It wasn't their vote. Votes are given first by money bags. You buy up INEC, you buy off the police, the army. Special funds are given to the police for elections.
Before we get into the police and the electoral questions, I would just like to backtrack a little bit on what you had just said. It is a clarification of sorts that I want to ask. So I want to ask, what's your comment on the current political realignment, particularly among the opposition forces that are now regrouping?
I'm not sure. It's hopeful, but if we are still recircling the oligarchs, then it's a useless thing. For me, I take exception to recycling old wine in new bottles. That is what we did in the APC. And I keep telling people that the crop of politicians that you have, they can be a handful probably, that are serious about governance and the country. Maybe about 1%.
1%?
Yes, 1% of the total number of politicians that we have in this country. If you look at the crop of politicians, you can divide them into two. You have those that are primarily civil servants that made money out of civil service. You have them as super pamsecs, and what do you call them? Well, in federal and state level, where they have stolen so much money that they can buy everything and everything. You have also the hooligans. I call them hooligans because they are people that are totally uneducated, ruffians, I was watching a video in which someone said there was a governor that said who could not fill a form, and that when he was asked concerning his university, he said the matter is in court. So you have these
for
hooligans.
his university degree.
Yeah. So you have these hooligans that that have never gone to school, that can hardly express themselves in English, that all they know is thuggery. They grew up, they come up as thugs, but that have a connect with the grassroots. They have a connection with the grassroots, the mass, the sea of illiterates that we have in the country, but particularly in the north.
The sea of illiterates.
Yes. And then, so they come in as one. You see them as governors, and they metamorphose into senators and into all sorts of things. So if you remember, there was so much ado about Tinubu's educational qualification.
His background, certainly.
You understand? But he grew up with these people, and there are so many governors like him. All they know is some kind of mafioso kind of...
Could you clarify on what you mean by mafioso?
Mafioso is when criminals take over the leadership of a people. And all they do is not to build the people, but to control the resources of these people. You understand? Even if you are a trader, there's a certain percent of it that goes into the coffers of the mafia for protection, this kind of thing.
Against aggression from said criminals.
From the mafia. So what I'm saying is that you have this kind of people that are in the Senate, that are in the executive, that are even in the judiciary.
The judiciary?
Yes, of course, because these kind of people control the people they pocket the judiciary. So what you have is a mafia kind of governance, and everyone is cowed. Everyone's lip is sealed. If you talk, you are locked up. If you talk, you will be assassinated. So some of us are prepared to face these things for God and for our country, because this thing has to change, because we cannot continue to exist as a nation under these circumstances. We can't. And unfortunately, for most of those that are oppressed, their attention and their psyche are such that they don't even see the real enemy. What the real enemy they see, they are made to believe that their enemies are their neighbors. You understand? Unfortunately. And the neighbor, they don't seem to understand that you are all suffering the same fate. You all have to, your children go to the same school, you are all impoverished, you are all malnourished, you are all insecure. Just 2 days ago, I see a mass exodus from Katsina, a day after Tinubu left Katsina. Bandits had ravaged villages. People have been forced out of the hundreds of maybe thousands of people have been made to leave Katsina. So you wonder, what sort of governance are Nigerians getting? And what right have they over their leaders?
Do you believe Nigerians should still hold on to the hope of that promise of renewed hope? Or is it time for an entirely different conversation?
What else do they need to see? What hope is there? When somebody makes a promise, and on his swearing-in day, he broke that promise, what else do you expect? He removed subsidy. Every country has a right to subsidy. The resources of this country belong to the people of this country. So it must be served. It must be used to serve for the welfare of the people of that country. Nobody is doing me any favor. When you sell the oil of this country, it should be for the welfare of the people of the country.
Not for
you understand? Not for foreigners, and not for personal aggrandizement. But the only way they can perpetuate themselves in power is by impoverishing and weaponizing poverty, and by this stupendous, grotesque theft and corruption. To hold on to money that you can never use in your entire life, because they believe that everything has a price. So to take charge, to maintain, to perpetuate yourself in power, you have to steal that stupendous amount of money.
I have a few questions here from our audience on our social media platforms. If you can just briefly go through it. We have Izara from Niger State that says, 2 years are gone and all that has happened is more policies, more money allocation, no work done and loss of lives. We want a better Nigeria as youths. I believe this can get better and things will change if as youths we get involved in political processes and hold our leaders accountable where it gets fishy. And Nigeria will get better if our laws work. We have another question here as well from Dogo Mansir Bukar from Gombe, and he says, at what stage do we classify this present administration as a failure?
At what stage do
At what stage?
At every stage, from beginning to end. It has failed.
It has failed.
Because it has failed. Look, it's not rocket science. There is nothing, that is hidden, or everything is so manifestly visible. The rate of poverty, the deaths, the rapes, the plunder of the resources of this country is so visible. And the loans, the theft of the loans, and the policies, for instance, everything evolves around the president. Everything revolves around the president. The powers given to the president is stupendous, and it's wrong, because if you give this absolute power to a single person, then of course,
is it even a democracy?
No, there's nothing democratic about what Nigeria is doing. Nothing democratic, because even the question of choice does not exist. So what I'm trying to say is that there has to be a total overhaul of the system, because the system has broken down completely. You understand? Nothing works. Nothing works. Okay, just recently I heard that 10 billion was allocated for
I would certainly love us to
10 billion
get into
for solar.
I would love us to get into that, but unfortunately, due to time,
it's okay.
Due to time, we have to briefly round up.
Okay.
Thank you, Hajia Naja'atu, greatly for your insight.
Thank you.
That is it for the PAP show. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you on board on another program. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.